Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Murphy Chamber panel, August panel discussion and lunch. I hope you're enjoying your lunch right now. I want to thank again Christina's Mexican Restaurant for catering today and providing the food. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank our sponsor for this program. We have Jason Cole with Sweetwater's Coffee and Tea with Murphy.
We'll be opening up in a few more months, but please come by and see us. We're right in front of the Lowe's. That building is being constructed. That's us.
That's right. All right, well, thank you so much. We appreciate your sponsorship and support today of the Chamber. Jason's a newer member of the Chamber, so thank you. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel moderator, Lon Ricker of Ricker Dynamics. He's going to be moderating for us today. So I want to say a few words about Lon. After 20 years in the corporate world, Lon realized there was more to life than chasing a title and a big paycheck. Lon decided to work with nonprofits for over a decade and then formed his own business, Ricker Dynamics. Help me welcome our fearless moderator today, Lon Ricker.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. For anybody that might not be aware, Julie is the executive director of the Murphy Chamber, and she has been since 2017. She came down here from Illinois in 2016. She said she wanted to get entrenched in the community and get to know a lot of people. So I'm thinking if you want to do that, lead a chamber. That's a good way to do it. And she can also be found at school events and PTAs and sports with her 3 boys. So Julie, thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thanks for what you do. So we are here today to hear from these business owners, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce one at a time the panelists and lead them into a question as opposed to just reading everybody's bios. I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit, and then we'll jump into some questions. Now, please stick around afterwards. We're going to have Q&A afterwards, but then also we are going to have a ribbon cutting for Club Z Tutoring. I guess it would help if I gave you guys a microphone and turned that on. So we will start right here with Carolyn. Carolyn Weeks is your Murphy Farmers Insurance agent. Carolyn has been a farmer's agent for almost 10 years. And is heavily engaged in the community. And I'll mention now that every one of our panelists are actually on the board of the Murphy Chamber as well. And that is a volunteer opportunity, so sometimes a thankless volunteer opportunity. But Carolyn, you didn't always own your own business. You weren't always in insurance. Could you please share with us maybe a little bit of your past, but then also what led you to want to have your own business and any tidbits for the folks here?
So I started out in the corporate world in event design, and I worked for a company where I ironed chair covers in college. My mother says I went to college and learned to iron. But I worked for that company for 17 years. I never did actually use my degree, which is a shame. But in the course of that job, there were some staffing changes at the head, and I just decided that I just couldn't follow stupid rules anymore, and I needed to make my own rules. So here I am. So we opened our farmers insurance agency. I worked for farmers for about a year before I decided to become an independent agent with them. And what we did was we went and helped new agents open their office and get entrenched in the community. And I thought, why am I helping everybody else when I could do this for myself? So here we are.
All right, thank you. So our next panelist is Yana Settle, the owner and operator of Settle Law Firm. Yana is an attorney practicing in the areas of real estate, estate planning, and probate law. Not only does she own a multi-attorney law firm, but she's a frequent author, presenter, and has several papers published on legal topics. And as I understand, perhaps you could share recently, you had a continuing legal education paper that you presented. Maybe you can share a little bit about that paper and where you presented it and how it may affect some of our small business owners.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction, Lon. I own and operate the
Settle Law Firm, which is 2 buildings down. So despite the heat, I decided to walk down here instead of drive. So that's how close I am. And we serve the needs of clients, definitely here in Murphy, but also throughout the state of Texas. And we have some clients who are in California, Nebraska, and other states across the U.S. on the real estate side. A lot of my focus as an estate planning attorney is on small business owners. So the State Bar of Texas that license and helps attorneys throughout Texas, they do a yearly conference for estate planning and probate, where attorneys draft continuing legal education papers and present those to other attorneys across the state. Normally hundreds of, maybe 200, 250 attorneys attend that every year, and hundreds more will read the papers throughout the year. So I was very happy to be able to spend a few months feeling like I was back in college earlier this year, pulling all-nighters and looking up citations and trying to put together this continuing legal education paper, which was titled Estate Planning for the Small Business Owner. So the readership for that is not necessarily small business owners who are not attorneys. It's attorneys who are helping in their practice doing estate planning for small business owners, and a lot of emphasis on what I put into the paper to teach other attorneys is on asset protection. So separating liabilities and assets as a small business owner, putting real estate into LLCs when it's commercial, use of revocable living trusts, and avoiding probate and having incapacity planning for your business, which is really, really important, both to avoid creditors at probate and to ensure that if something happens to you when you're in the hospital, there isn't business interruption for your business practices and your employees and things like that. Trusts and some other planning can help with that. So I love putting those into practice at my law firm, and I love working with small business owners, and hopefully I can answer some questions about that today.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks. And I'm going to leave this microphone off so it doesn't interfere with that one. So our next panelist is Steve Dalt, owner and financial advisor with Dalt Financial. Like the rest of the panels, as I mentioned, Steve is on the board, but he is also the chairman of the Murphy Chamber of Commerce Scholarship Fund. And I'm thinking, if you're looking at scholarships and money, having a financial advisor is the perfect person to work with that. Steve, my understanding is you weren't always a financial advisor. So perhaps you'll share with us some of your employment history, but maybe what it was that transitioned you to this and how you help small businesses.
Thanks, Lon. I've been to that seminar, 3 days of trust and probate and stuff, and it's very interesting stuff, so I'm looking forward to reading your paper.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, and that's what that was for. So in my previous life, I started out selling diagnostic metal equipment, cutting edge technologies, had an 8-state territory, got hired by one of the companies to be sales manager and worked up to vice president of sales and marketing with that company, and built out a worldwide network of dealers, which we hadn't done before, and added to our sales reps here. So I'm very familiar with growing a company, what it takes. The problem with my job was I was gone 80% of the time. I had medical conferences around the world. I got tired of the travel. So just by chance, I read an obtuse ad and had no idea what it was, but it ended up being a financial advisor. I fell in love with it. And after working with a couple of firms, I came to the realization that the only way that I could really serve my clients and not the corporation was to go independent and run my own business. So it's been quite a journey. I've learned a lot of things, and hopefully today, all of those things that we've learned in moving from one step to another in our career, we can help shed some light to you that might be useful.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Our next panelist is Jacqueline McGinnis, founder and owner of Jacqueline McGinnis CPA. Over the past 35 plus years, Jackie's assembled a team of like-minded professionals the goal to empower private business owners to take command of their business and their financial lives. So Jackie, my understanding is you didn't just wake up one morning and see the work of self-employed family members and so, but it sounds like you woke up a lot of mornings and saw the self-employed with your family, with your folks. So would you please share maybe some of that and how and why that led to where you are today?
Sure. That was the genesis. I grew up in a family that owned a bakery, a full-service, scratch German bakery. So my father got up at midnight, he slurped some coffee, he sped to the office for a fun-filled 10 to 12-hour day, unless the dishwasher didn't show up, in which case he washed the pots and pans. So then mother would go to the bakery in the afternoon, pay the bills, run the payroll, and supervise the afternoon shift. They were two shifts that passed in the afternoon. And so I know many of you have lived that same kind of life, and it's a tough life. And I saw that, and I just thought there had to be a better way. It doesn't have to be this way. You know, being self-employed is supposed to be glamorous, right? You're all supposed to be out there golfing on Wednesday with your doctor. Isn't that right? It's all very different than what you thought it would be. And so what I see frequently is that a person may be like an absolute expert at what they do. You know, they're great wedding planners. They can hang drywall and you can't even see any of the seams when it's all done. But running a business takes a whole different set of skills. And of course, having good books is kind of the foundation for really knowing where you are. So I got a business degree with an emphasis in accounting, but we studied a lot of other things too. And it's been my passion to help the small business owner reclaim some of your life and your free time. So
Excellent,
that's
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
So you actually lead, I'm going to have you hang on to the mic, you led into my next question, and I'm going to ask you to continue. You know, we've all heard if you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. I share when I work with nonprofits that quite often the founder knows how to do their thing, whether it's taking care of animals or kids or the elderly. They don't know anything about fundraising. We can be great at our business, but we're not necessarily great at running a business. So I would like each of the panelists, starting with Yana, to share with us, or I'm sorry, starting with Jacqueline, sorry Jackie, to share with us from your perspective in your business, what are some recommendations that you make to us business owners? We're good at what we do, but what are the things we should pay attention to?
Okay, well, you need to know that there are multiple pillars of your business, and you're probably the most familiar with being a technical person. You know how to lay tile. Or you write great resumes. Or social media. But you've got to be able to sell that. You've got to be able to. So, technical is one pillar. Sales is another. You've got to be able to get the target customer to know that you are excellent at harnessing the power of social media for purposes of bringing in the right kind of customer for that person to sell and close. And then there's the back end stuff, getting bills paid and getting the financing that you need and the money management skills to, have the resources available, because once you've sold that customer, now you've got to fulfill all the big promises that you made to that customer. And so then there's the back end, and part of that is keeping your books so that you really know what kind of jobs are really bringing in the best bang for the buck, and so that you can file, fairly accurate tax returns. There's no perfect set of books. If your books are perfect, you've spent too much time on them, okay? So, but you need to get it kind of sort of right, where there's not really enough to get the IRS or any of the other agencies that come and visit us, interested. So those are the pillars.
Thank you. Steve, same question from your perspective, what do us business owners do?
Well, I think that probably a lot of us who are business owners think that we're smart enough to do everything. And that's a mistake that I think many of us have made. And what I've learned over the years is that you have to rely on other people that are experts in their area. Like Jackie was saying, my instance, I'm a financial advisor. But that doesn't mean that I know everything about accounting, or I know everything about law, or I know everything about insurance. So I rely on those professionals to help guide me so that I'm not spending my time trying to learn their business. So I think that the biggest thing that we can do as small business owners is devote our time to what we do best and let those that have the expertise help guide us.
All right. I love what Steve just said about delegation. I think as your business grows, that is one of the hardest things for us to do. A small business that we form and create and grow is our baby, right? I mean, it is our project of passion for most of us. Even if we got into it because we kind of stumbled upon something that we found out that we love to do. It might not be the thing that we went to college for, or it might be the thing that we went to way too much college for, in my case. So delegation is wonderful. My office, although our advertised practice areas are real estate, estate planning, and probate, we do a lot of LLC formations and advise business owners. And I always tell business owners during that initial meeting where they're hiring me and we're going to file a certificate of formation, and I'm going through the things that they need to be aware of, and I'm aiming for breadth, not depth, because I can't advise them on everything that's legal. I have my list to give them in my letters, but I say you need a team around you to support you. You need to get the right insurance in place for your business. You need to make sure that you're paying your taxes and, if you don't know how to pay and report to the Workforce Commission, you need a CPA who stays on top of that for you. If you don't know what a Texas franchise report is every May, you need a CPA who helps with that. And I'm sure Steve will talk about this, but retirement and financial planning is something small business owners really neglect. They're really uninformed about. They don't realize the opportunities. I'm sure Steve will touch on that. From the legal standpoint, when you're a small business owner, whether you're forming that business or growing that business, you need to have the legal structure in place. And so I help way too many business owners who are a few years or more into the business, and they just went to the Secretary of State website and picked some choices on a certificate of formation and filed it themselves, and they don't have operating agreements for them and the other business owners. They don't have company they literally don't have a company records book. And they don't realize the type of risk they're in. If there's a lawsuit, they don't have estate planning for themselves and other business partners. So, I help families with probate. One of the worst examples was a husband who died, and he was the only owner of record of a convenience store, and he had no will, much less any trust or business planning or estate planning. And the probate takes so many months to get through an heirship determination and then to get that wife appointed. They couldn't even get the TABC license. The whole business fell apart. You had a business that was truly worth value, that was feeding the family, that she could have sold to somebody else or continued to run. And by the time she was appointed 4 or 5 months after his death, that business was not worth very much, and we were, really, really struggling, her and the kids. And just a little bit of estate planning and business planning from a lawyer would have ensured that as soon as he was in the hospital, passed away, she could be running the whole thing fine. She could just step up as co-trustee. So I see a lot of small business owners that try to do too much do-it-yourself legal work. And I always say, it's not a perfect analogy, but legal work, business planning, estate planning is analogous to healthcare in that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure later on. If you don't pay for it and take the time and do it right at the beginning, you're gonna be wishing down the line that you did, or your loved ones are gonna be wishing down the line that you did. So I really like helping business owners get off on the right foot, or if they didn't get off on the right foot in the past, kind of getting them back into where they need to be.
Excellent, thank you, appreciate that. Carol?
So mine is a little different. When I think about a business that's just starting, so many of the things, well, everything costs money and you haven't made any yet, which is just a huge challenge to overcome. And one of the things that I see people doing is buying, especially insurance, based on price, regardless of the fact that it doesn't actually do what you want it to, or it doesn't meet the needs of the company that you're a franchisee for. So I would just really encourage people who, when you do start a business, it is difficult to spend money when you haven't made any, but be sure it's spent wisely and on the right things. For instance, when you have a single proprietor or sole proprietor and you work out of your home, a lot of people think that your home insurance will cover that. And it does cover if you have, your business is one of like 5 things. You can be a salon in your home as long as you don't have any employees. You can have a daycare with up to 6 kids. The amount of things that you can do and have it covered by your homeowner's insurance is very small compared to the types of businesses people are running out of their homes. So I would just really encourage you to understand that you're poor at the moment, but not to use it to your detriment in buying something, spending money that doesn't actually work for you.
Excellent, thank you. We're going to get a little more in depth into some of the insurance things that business owners should consider. I'm going to ask you to pass the mic down to Steve, please. We're going to don't want everybody to have to be first, but want everybody to be first. So Steve, when I worked in the corporate world, I had a 401k. Sometimes I had a company that was matching some of that. Even there's companies with pensions. As a small business owner, I figured that my retirement was either the measly savings I put back when I wasn't buying the things I needed to, or it was selling my business. What are those the only options for small business owners, and what should we plan for?
Well, as a small business owner, there are just a plethora of options. There's not a one type of retirement plan that works for every individual. It depends on, are you self-employed? Are you the only employee? Do you have numerous employees? Do you have a lot of employees? How much money do I want to save? So it's a whole alphabet soup. There's an SEP IRA, there's a simple IRA, you can do a sole 401k, you can do a 401k, and you can do that with 2 people. So I mean, there are many, many options, and no one option is right for everyone. And to go through this, this could be an hour-long seminar on retirement plans for small businesses, easily, if not more. But talk with a financial advisor. Let them ask the questions to lead you down the right path. Talk with your CPA. Talk with an attorney. There are many, many options out there. So again, going back to doing insurance yourself, or your bookkeeping, or setting up a corporation, lean on the people that have the knowledge. There's a lot you can read about, but there's a lot that you will probably miss if you're reading it, because each one of those items, each one of those constructs has different pros and cons. So there's no one good way to set that up. So I'm sorry that that's vague, but
Well, I appreciate that because it is there. I do have options. It's
Right,
not
yeah.
just whatever I figure
Tons of
I can
options.
squirrel away. So excellent. All right, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Let's talk to Yana here. If I started a tree trimming service, I'd probably want to get insurance. So if I fell out of the tree or I dropped a tree on somebody's house, I've covered them. But from a small business perspective, there's LLCs and there's sole proprietors and there's S corps and those things. What do they mean, if you can shortly help with that? And if I started the wrong way, do I need to start, is it too late to do something different? And, what's that going to cost?
All in my 2-minute allotted time. Well, so it's never too late to get on the right track with a legal structure. I do have people that come in for a consultation about business formation, and they leave with my recommendation that they not pay me and not pay the state of Texas at this point in time, that it's just, essentially seems not quite the right time or not worth the money and the administrative end of, filing things with the state every year and keeping a company records book. But they're pretty few and far between. So if you come to me and you're making candles in your home and it's a side business and you are not planning on truly ever having any employees, you don't want any, this is just, we love making candles and, it's just all you in your home, there's not a whole lot of legal protections that an LLC can afford to you. And we go over pros and cons, including cost and what LLC formation and you wouldn't use generally a corporation for that, but just the different types. But there is a little bit of a misconception out there that having, putting your small business, if you're a sole proprietor with nothing formed, if you form an LLC, that it protects your personal assets from any liability having to do with your business. And it doesn't quite work that way. LLC is great for protecting you and your personal assets from contractual liability that your company enters into. So if your company agrees to buy 1,000 widgets a year for 5 years from a vendor and then your business folds under, they can sue the LLC under that contract for all those widgets that you're not going to buy anymore. But that can help protect your personal assets. And premises liability, somebody slipping and falling, tripping and falling, etc., at your office or at your warehouse. LLC is great as businesses grow to get in place at the beginning, even if you're your only employee, because if you plan on growing, if it's your goal to grow and add more employees, if I have a tree trimming business, or my favorite example during consultations is lawn care, mowing business. If I have an LLC, but I am the only person mowing lawns and I accidentally run my lawnmower over a lady's $2,000 award-winning rose bush, she's going to sue me or my LLC, and she's going to win that. My LLC does not protect me from any bad acts or mistakes or negligence that I make. But if I also employ 2 other people who mow, and if one of my employees runs over the rose bush, the homeowner, this LLC provides me from some protection. Let's say the rose bush is actually worth $200,000. They can sue the individual person who made that mistake, the employee, but they generally won't unless they've got deep pockets. They can sue the LLC, and they could take the money potentially that's in my LLC bank account and maybe get a garnishment against my lawnmowers and things. But my investment properties and other things that are my personal assets, it's going to be very difficult for that homeowner to break through the corporate veil. My LLC protects me as I grow and get things like premises liability and employees and things. And it also helps with marketing and branding. If somebody hands you a card and it just says Jana's Best Mowing Services, that doesn't inspire confidence as much as Jana's Best Mowing LLC. There's something about the fact that you took the time and the money and the planning to form a company with the state of Texas that does make you appear to be more legitimate, and actually does make you a more legitimate small business. That is one benefit that anybody, even an at-home candle maker, can take advantage of. But we really like to go through the pros and cons and what companies can and can't do, both at the beginning and as you grow. And it's never too late. I've worked with some big businesses that were not formed, that were essentially like solo practitioners. Solos can have employees if you get a tax ID number from the IRS. But boy, if you're going out and laying down driveways and cements and working with big equipment, and it's you and 4 people that you employ, and you do not have an LLC in place, that is a hugely unacceptable level of liability risk. So it's never too late to get back on track. It will not help you for any mistakes those employees made in the past before you formed, but it will provide a liability shield as of that date and moving forward, and that's important, so.
Nice, thank you. And I like the marketing thing. I'm gonna have to get new business cards with my LLC on my name. I haven't had that, so thank you. So if you can pass the mic to Carolyn, please. Carolyn, you touched a little bit on insurance about in-home offices and things. Can we also talk about if you have employees that are using their personal vehicles and things like that? Landlord required if I'm gonna lease a space.
So there's all sorts of things with insurance, just like there is with everything. So 2 minutes is hard to get it all in. But some things I'd like to leave with you is like food for thought. An insurance company, their main goal is to make money. Their main goal is not to pay claims. And oftentimes, depending on who the carrier is, some are better at paying claims than others. They will ask you questions like, if you're just a sole proprietor and you delivered something. And as soon as you mention the word delivery, you're right up there with the pizza guy. And that's a reason for your personal policy to say, no, we're not going to cover that. Because they are looking for reasons to pay out as little as possible. So if you do have just yourself as you're the only employee and you're delivering things, even if it's paperwork or you need to get a piece of paper signed, if they ask you, where were you going, what were you doing, and your answer involves business, unless you have business coverage on your personal auto, it's probably not going to be covered. The other thing with auto is there's these words like full coverage. Just full coverage. It just means no matter what happens, everything is going to be covered. And that is not the way it works. It will be covered up to the limits of your policy. So in the beginning of that starting a business and you chose the least expensive way to have your car covered, and you have an accident, then in Texas, the most you'll get is $30,000 per person. And in this area, you don't hit a jalopy. You're going to hit a Lexus, an Escalade. You're going to hit something that's expensive. So when you have like the minimum limits, it would certainly be to a detriment of your business to have not only no business coverage on your auto, but then have chosen the lowest limits possible to limit your spending. So it's really important to go through all of those details. Another one would be, I have an office over here in Murphy Marketplace. Oftentimes when you get insurance, you think you need insurance for you. Well, my lease says I have to insure the entire building. So if you just got the policy that has $100,000 or $1 million in liability limits, that would not replace the building I'm in. Actually reading your lease and knowing what you need is a huge part of just being prepared. Now, whether that lease is read by a lawyer, which would be way easier because it's not written in a way that is designed to be understood by the rest of us, would be great. But even just, when I started out, I asked my landlord, I said, so what are you looking for from me? Tell me what this says, what all 22 pages say in about 5 sentences. What do you want? And he said to me, well, you're in charge of the whole building. Don't bring me something that has $1 million in coverage. It'll cost $3 million just to replace the building. Not even counting all the people that have tenants and are going to sue you because you burned the building down. Or something you did in your office caused the sprinklers in the entire building to ruin everybody's inventory. So there's just a lot of little details, whether it's insurance or someday you'd like to retire. I'm in that group right now. Someday I'd like to retire. I don't know how that's going to happen. But there's just lots of little details that need to be looked at. And most of those decisions need to be not based on price. So.
All right, appreciate that. And later I'll introduce you to my friend Steve, who can talk about retiring and succession planning. And so, Jackie, if we pass that down to you, pretty sure I started my own business so I could write everything off. Everything I do, everything I buy, I can write off. Or I'm gonna make candles, and I'm gonna turn my hobby into a business. So again, I have all these tax write-offs. Can you share if maybe I'm going down the wrong path and from a tax standpoint?
Well, you're really not going down the wrong path. I mean, I've read books that say, hey, if you want to start getting on top of your taxes, you need to start a small business. Because you can, convert a lot of some part of otherwise personal expenses to business expenses, such as you've got an office in your home, so you do the square footage calculation, you say, wow, I can write off 10% of my utilities, my insurance, my property taxes, because over here I'm not itemizing deductions anymore since we got a big boost in that. And so that's really cool. And then people come to me and they say, I'm gonna write off my swimming pool. And I'm going, okay, are you giving swimming lessons? Well, yes, to my granddaughters. It's like, I don't think that's gonna meet the standard. But there has been some wild stuff, like I wanna write off I wanna claim my dog as a dependent. And it's like, well, what kind of dog you have? He's a Rottweiler, and we leave him at the shop. And we've been broken into 3 times. And I go, I probably could write off that Rottweiler if you really do leave him at the shop and you have been broken into 3 times. Because a dog is a big deterrent, even more than cameras and wailing alarms. If someone's going to bite me, I'm probably going to go rob somebody else. And so you have to look at your activity and think, what's a logical Code Section 162 ordinary and necessary business expense? And then it goes down the road, and we think, okay, if you're gonna have people in your home, you probably need an insurance rider for that. If you've got a salon or a daycare, people in your home regularly, not so much with me because we're virtual, and so I'm seeing this recurring theme here that all the people here need to be on your team to help put your mind at ease that you know what kind of things you should and shouldn't do, and you have the right kind of backup plan should something go wrong. So obviously Carolyn covered that. And then with Yana, a lot of times the IRS will show up and the first thing they want to look at is your business minute book. And most people go, what's that? And I had one lady one time that said, oh, here it is. And the IRS agent almost fell out of his chair because he'd never seen one either. I think it was his first corporate audit. But anyway, it did not have in it the things that she should have had in it, such as, let's set the officer's salary. Let's address the lending that we have and maybe set some limits on that. Now hers was, my husband has nothing to do with the business from now on. That's what she had in it. So, see, you need to, probably have at least an annual meeting, sometimes more, with all of these people that are on your team, because we see people every year, at least. We like to see them more often than that, at least quarterly, kind of see how it's going, what direction the business is going into, and are the records caught up, where record keeping is not going to become an emergency when tax time comes. So you meet with this guy here, and he's going to tell you how to get out of the business someday, because we love what we do, but it just might get old after 50 years. My dad still makes pies for Thanksgiving. And that's enough for him. And then you go see Yana, and she's going to make sure that when the IRS comes to see you and he wants your minute books, that guy's going to fall out of his chair and go, oh my God, I got to read minutes now? And then you got to meet with Carolyn once a year because things change. And your policy's going to renew, and maybe, she's going to jump in and help me here, but maybe some of the liability landscape has changed, or some of your activities have changed to where you need a different kind of policy. So, and so, you got to have good systems, but you got to have a team.
Excellent, thank you. And that's going to lead into kind of a wrap-up question here I'm going to ask each panelist to share. Keeping in mind that this is about small business growth, if you've listened to any podcasts, you've heard them say, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? So my question to each panelist is, what would you tell yourself or these folks that are maybe wanting to grow their business based on what you've experienced with your business or with other clients?
I'm going to jump right in there because obviously I'm a mic hog. But what I would tell my 20-year-old self, because early 20s, I got out of school with an accounting degree, knocked out that CPA exam. I was good at taking tests. That was one skill I had. But I would say, you don't know everything. So I'd say get some coaching. There are a lot of great coaches out there, and they have seen and done things that, none of us have done. And so that's what I would say is, all of you should read the books in the E-Myth series, because he steps you right through that whole thing.
In the what series?
The E-Myth, entrepreneurial myth. And he basically wrote 20 years ago what I just realized maybe 10 years ago, that you're great at what you do. You are an expert, but running a business requires a whole different structure, a whole different team, and a whole different skill set than baking pies.
Excellent. Thank you.
I kind of touched on this already, and I think the one thing that I would tell myself when I was starting out is talk to the experts. Don't try to become an expert in everything. And I made that mistake. I know way too much about the IRS code that I don't need to know. I mean, it's helpful with my clients because I can speak to them from that standpoint. But I have no business spending the time doing my own taxes when I can be doing other things. I set up my own LLC in the beginning. I wish I hadn't gone down that path. One thing I was smart enough to know was to talk to somebody in insurance, because that to me is complicated. Not as complicated as the law, but I thought that I could do an LLC. Like you said, you can do it online. It's a piece of cake. But there's much, much more to it. So the delegation, I want to come back to that, is really the key to growing your business. The other thing is exactly what you guys are doing here, networking. And I know everybody in this room is great at it, because I recognize almost everybody here. And lean on the other business owners that you know. If you have a mentor or somebody that you can talk to that's doing the exact same thing as you, I'm constantly talking with other financial advisors because there's so much information out there, and trading ideas with them, doing continuing education. So I think those are the things that will help you grow your business. As far as how you grow your business, I think that's different in every single business. Is it social media? Is it out shaking hands and meeting people? Word of mouth? I can't speak to that. All of those things are good things. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those. But really, it's rely on other people. And that's another thing too. I mean, social media and websites, farm that out. You can't do that. So the world that we live in now is much, much more complicated than my 20-year-old self. It's completely changed. And it's hard for one individual to keep up with all the changes in all of the different areas that we now have. It seems to me that the world we live in is so much more complicated than it was when I was 20-something. So we need that expertise. I mean, look at medicine. Look at how focused all of these specialists are now. Attorneys. Used to be, you go to an attorney and they were jacks of all trades. And now it is so specialized that you need somebody who does trust and wills, somebody that does probate. Now they can cover a few of those, but Yana's not going to help you with criminal defense.
I can't file a divorce, wouldn't know where to start.
So there's rely on other people. That would be the thing I'd tell myself more than thinking that you're so smart that you can figure it out, because nobody is.
Those are great answers. I know Jackie and Steve touched a lot on delegation and having a team, and I think we also have mentioned that as well. It's really important. That was the idea behind this panel, in fact, which Julie and I had first talked about months and months ago, was, could we put together what would look like a team for small business owners? small business owners don't have to come to us in particular. The idea is to get small business owners information and get them thinking about having a team at their back, that you are as smart as the people you surround yourself with and the employees that you hire and the specialists that you work with. In addition to delegation, having a team, I would tell small business owners, and I wasn't one at age 20, but tell myself, I don't know, this is something that I have believed in firmly for a long time, but I certainly would tell other small business owners, I would remind them that the most successful people, including the most successful business owners, have more failures in their past than anyone else. Because you gotta try 10 times to make one work. The really successful entrepreneurs, they've got failed businesses in their past, sometimes even bankruptcies, and sometimes even lawsuits and other things, but it doesn't have to be that dramatic. I have mentored in the last maybe, just past 2-3 years, several other attorneys that left their law firms and went out and what we call, hung their own shingle as an attorney, and how to get their law firms up and running, and especially growth. It is really hard to hire your first employee. When you're a solo attorney, it's really hard to take the jump to add a salary for an associate attorney. That was a difficult jump for me to make a few years back. It's difficult to, add a paralegal if that's the first thing you do. As small business owners, it's difficult for you, if you're the only person who mans your shop, to come up with the salary or the hourly payment to add somebody else. And there's a fear of, where do I come up with the money, and what if business dries up? And these are really real fears, but they're fears that you have to overcome and take the chance on if you want your business to grow. If not, your business will stagnate where it's at, and most of us are still looking for growth. So you need to not be afraid to take chances, and you need to realize that there is going to be wasted money, but sometimes you have to waste money 5 times, and the 6th time is going to be the thing that really, really works for you. In the end, once you've been doing that successful 6th thing for years and years, and it's been bringing in revenue because that was the right employee to hire, you got to crack some eggs to make an omelet. I had to go through different, first paralegal I hired remotely, I couldn't figure out why she wasn't getting the work done, and I finally found out that she hadn't left her other job. She was trying to do my stuff in between working for her still current boss in his office over there, and so, yeah, she had to go. It is hard, advertising is really hard. You spend money on advertising and it doesn't pay off within a month or 2, and then you quit, but you're not thinking about long-term community recognition. I tried, several different methods for advertising. Right now, the only advertising I do, for what it's worth, Janice right over there, I advertise with In and Around magazine, and no offense, Janice, but the first few months, remember, a couple years back, I was like, I don't know if this is working out for me. And she encouraged me to stick with it, and hopefully, so if you see my ads, most months we're on the back page. Don't steal that from me, I call dibs. But it really works, but it took a while. And it's so funny when somebody comes into my office for estate planning and they have a back page In and Around magazine from 12 months ago, and they say it's been sitting on their counter, they've been meaning to get around to estate planning. I'm like, okay, well,
That happened to me.
that works.
I had her ad on my desk for several months, and finally went in.
Real fun when somebody brings in a Murphy Messenger ad clipped out. I'm like, my goodness, they haven't even been publishing for a very long time. It happened to me earlier this year. So the thing is, you have to waste money to make money. You are going to hire employees that you will end up firing after training them. You are going to try advertising that's not going to work, or it's going to take a while to work. But you cannot make an omelet without cracking the eggs. And the most successful people have many, many failures behind them, because you've got to try them out to see what works. So don't be afraid to take those jumps and don't get discouraged when something doesn't work out. All you've done is eliminated something that doesn't work, and you're going to keep going until you hit on something that does.
Excellent, thanks.
I totally agree with all of that. So if I would tell my 30-year-old self, because my 20-year-old self was pretty, thought she knew everything, so she wouldn't listen. So, unfortunately. My 30-year-old self, honestly, I would tell her to get out of her own way. There are things that I stuck with, whether it be advertising or employees. Just as an example, I had a gentleman that came to work for me, and I never have cash, ever have cash. My children can smell it. You just don't have it. And on this day, I had $50 in my wallet. And by lunch, I handed him that $50 and said, I am so sorry, this is not going to work out. And I sent him on his way before we'd ever process any paperwork or anything. And my 30-year-old self wouldn't have done that. I would have stuck with it, and I would have paid him and been angry, and we would have had a poor working atmosphere. Where now I'm just like, I am so sorry, this is not working. Here, take this money and please leave.
You cracked the eggs.
I cracked the eggs. But yes, get out of your own way. I'm a wonderful procrastinator. I excel at that. I didn't like to do things like cold calls, so I didn't do them. And that was something I really should have done in the beginning. I could have gotten to where I wanted to be faster if I had done the things that were uncomfortable. But I didn't do them because I was standing in my own way. So that would be the biggest thing I would tell my 30-year-old self, is to get out of your own way. Do the things that are uncomfortable. For me, it was about breaking it down into things that I could get over quickly, like cold calls. I would only do 10 at a time. I could commit to doing 10. I couldn't commit to doing it for an hour. 10, there's a good chance none of them are going to answer the phone. So I had to break down the things that were really, that I wanted to procrastinate about into sizable chunks that I could deal with. Like cold calling, advertising, employees, things that I should have put sooner and didn't. So.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you all and your insights, questions that we came up with. At this point, I'd like to ask anybody if you have questions for any or all of our panelists. I'm not going to come around with the microphone because we have one, but please, if you have any questions, if you can stand up and Linda, please.
Yeah, I don't really have a question, I just have a comment. And it goes back to what Carolyn said, you start a business and you don't have any cash flow yet. And so the internet is very convenient. You can do your own LLC, or you can do your own books, or find your own insurance company and what you need. But what you don't realize is you don't have that warm body to pick the right choice for you. It's the same thing in my business. You can buy my tchotchkes online, but if there's a problem, I can help you. I have the rapport with the vendors. So I'm the warm body, but you're welcome to do it by yourself. But I think it's what you get by hiring and consulting these people are the right guidance.
Well, I think we saw it earlier too, because each of them shared, this is my strength, go talk to them.
Right.
And that's what we get, especially when we work in a community like this, where we get to know people, is we get to work with them one-on-one. Other questions? Anybody else have any other questions before we thank the panelists and
I
turn
do
it
have
over?
a quick comment.
All right, please.
So back to Linda's, there is this commercial about buying insurance, pay only for what you need. Well, who the heck knows what they need?
Yeah.
And that can be applied to everything, whether it's your legal or your CPA, all of that. Only pay for what you need if you only knew what you needed.
Good input, good input. So, yes, sir.
So I was just curious, with all this wonderful COVID stuff going on in small businesses, if your employees do have to stay home, do they now get to count their home office as a home office and write it off? Or how does that affect the employer if you now have this business you're not using? Just curious.
Our CPA help us with that.
I'm not a CPA, but if there's anybody, even if they don't own a business, that doesn't have a business in the homeowner taxes, they're missed something.
I'm wondering if the IRS even has an answer to that yet, so we'll find out as we pass this to Jackie. Yeah, there's a
there's an old IRS code section 139, that I think it was enacted maybe during September 11, because that was just devastated such a huge swath of the eastern United States. And you can reimburse your employees for things that they wouldn't normally have to buy, like if they have to go buy an extra monitor or get a better internet connection, you know, just to be working at home. And so we have invoked that code section 139 to allow employers to support their work staff while they're working from home. And then we had the added benefit of finding out that our employees don't want to come back to the office. So, you know, now we get to save all this money on real estate and utilities for the office. And they say tolls, gas, lunches out, clothes, time. Who wouldn't love to save an hour, hour and a half every day? Time. This is an employee benefit if you can work it, or your employees work remotely. This is an employee benefit that costs you nothing and gives you huge accolades in goodwill from your people. So, you know, that's what I'm saying.
Excellent question. But the employee themselves cannot write it off.
There's really not a vehicle for the employee to write it off themselves. So they need to be, you know, stepping up and looking to their employer and say, hey, I had to buy this extra monitor, you know, could you reimburse me for that? And I mean, they really can. Because when Donald Trump overhauled the whole tax system, that miscellaneous itemized deduction section on Schedule A went away. So we don't really have any way to even write off employee business expenses anymore. So, you know, the whole employee business expense form 2106, it went away too. So that's really difficult, you know, for a lot of people that have to travel a lot. And so, you know, they might want to kick over and be independent contractors so they can write that stuff off. So again, you know, it goes back to maybe your employer says, no, I won't buy the extra monitor, but you've got a candle making business in your home and you need a bigger monitor to see the bigger, better candles or whatever. So, you know, having that little side hustle can be a good thing, as long as you don't get caught up in the hobby loss rules. But we're just about out of time.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. And then,
Another
quick
question.
one.
Yeah, questions.
All of us as business owners here have two big responsibilities. Hold on to the customers we have and to go get new ones. That's what we all should be doing day in, day out. Given the current, you know, given the current situation we're all in with the pandemic, you know, whether you should mask or not, the business is closing, you know, pivoting and this and that. What are you guys doing specifically to bring in new business? Do you have any new tools or techniques you're using to reel in new business, to keep your businesses going?
There is nothing like a pandemic to make people want to get their will done. So I hate to say this, but estate planning and unfortunately also probate, it's been established that the uptick in probate coincides with COVID deaths. But after an initial 3 months last year, starting end of March, where businesses literally had to shutter, and I was dipping into my savings. Had no business coming in, and was dipping into my savings to make payroll, and wondering if I was going to have to let my, people go, and at what point. After that, my business has been robust because I think a lot of people have really realized that they need to have a durable power of attorney in place in case they end up in the hospital, be it COVID or a car crash or something else. And they need to, have wills and trusts and business planning and estate planning in place. But when I talk to my investor clients and business clients and things like that, I think that there is a renewed, because the networking dried up so much, people are exploring advertising, social media, print advertising, podcasts, videos online. This is what I'm seeing from my business clients. But I mostly grabbed the mic from Steve so I could make the joke about the wills and the pandemics, but it's not a joke, everybody needs that. So if you don't have it, please come by, see me, email us, call us, and allow me to help you get those, even just the real basic protections in place.
It's also the same with life insurance. There's a whole group of 50-year-olds who decided they might be in trouble and wanted to know if they could get life insurance. And it doesn't really work that way. You can get it, but you can't get it because you're sick. If you could, you can get it, but you can't afford it. So it's just difficult. And really, in terms of business planning, COVID was not something you could plan for. There was no planning in my business was for us to be closed for 3 months. There was no planning really for any of it. The one thing I did decide when I was trying to figure if I was going to need to let people go, how to work this, was that it would cost me more to train new people than it would be to continue to pay my old people. So it's worked out well for us. Our office is set up in such a way that I'm kind of in a fishbowl and we don't all have to be together, so we still continue to go to the office. It's where most of the work gets done. And having people work from home is great, but there's not a whole lot of oversight. And if, at least in insurance, if you do something wrong at home that I don't catch, I'm the one who's going to be in trouble for it, not necessarily you. So we continue to go to the office. We did nearly deplete our savings. So I can't imagine any business that wouldn't be in a recovery for at least a year, if not longer, trying to get over just not having any business. Now for us, the way we have continued to go after new business is through a personal contact. Actually talking to each one of our customers, do you have anybody that is starting a new business or that has any questions? Really just that personal relationship. Pivoting did not work well for us. Insurance is a slow-moving vehicle. We do not like change, and when we do change, we change slow. So we're now changing towards COVID now that it's been over a year. I don't know how we're going to change back, but it's just difficult.
Jackie, I know you wanted to say something, but real quick, I can't answer your question about how you grow, but I'm growing through referrals with clients. In my business, as in most of our business, we like to meet with our clients on a regular basis. Now, obviously with COVID, I've been able to do that face-to-face, but we've been doing it either over the phone or video conference. And that's where my growth has come, is just from those referrals. I do an advertisement in the newspaper with Janice, and pretty much have forever. But the real growth is internal through the referrals. One thing that I'd like to say real quick that we did not touch on is, and Yana touched on it a little bit, because of COVID, as a business owner, you need to have some type of an exit strategy. You need to have, like in my case, I have another financial advisor that is willing to step up to buy my business if I pass away, and my clients are still taken care of, my wife is taken care of, it's all out of there. So if you can get a buy-sell agreement with people, you need to have an exit plan, and that's where an attorney can help out, or luckily through LPL Financial, they have a program that I can name who I want to be the successor financial advisor, and if they turn it down, I've got 2 or 3 lined up that I trust, right, to move my clients to. If that doesn't happen, then it goes out to bid to another local, and they make sure that it's a good fit with clients in the book. Not, as small business owners, a lot of you don't have that option. I've got a nice corporate back to fall on, even though I'm independent. I own my own business, but I hire them to do a lot of back office stuff for me. So that's important. Wills and trust, oh my God. During this, I think that people have seen, and I've seen it too many times with clients, and it's something that I constantly talk about with my clients. You've got to have a will in place. Do you need a trust? What type of a trust? So as a business owner, there's a lot of things that you have to think about from a planning standpoint and a succession standpoint, and your business is not a retirement plan. A lot of people think that. I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna sell my business, and that's all I need to retire. No, put away a little bit every month and diversify your investments. Your business is an investment. But, perfect example, that business was viable by the time they had probated out, it wasn't. So that poor family didn't have the benefits of all the hard work that gentleman had done to build his business. So I'm sorry I went off, but those were some topics that are near and dear to me that I wanted just to point out to small business owners.
Thank you. So I want to address your question directly. So when you think about what can I do, you know, the sky is falling, nobody can go out, we're all going to die of COVID, and you look around, you got to see what the other businesses are doing and how creative they've gotten. I mean, who doesn't want margaritas to go, right? Drive-through margaritas. I mean, and so what we did was we got on the phone and we started calling our clients and saying, okay, you know, COVID has broken out. How is this affecting your business? What can we do to help? And God, you know, at first, like March of 2020, there's really nothing we could do to help except lend an ear. And so it's just reaching out to your client and letting them know we care about you and we want to know how this is hurting you. And then later, when they came out with the PPP loans, it's like, oh my God, we can even get a day off and miss vacations for 2 years in a row. So then March, the following March, I had a man in my office. He had perfect compliance for 2 years, and then back he had some unfiled, unpaid tax returns. The IRS was all over him, and you know, through a regular process of what we do, we got him in a status called currently not collectible. And also, I saw that his business had just tanked. I mean, there was nothing. His main customer was movie theaters. Nobody was going to the movies. So I figured out that he qualified for a second draw under the new rules, the PPP2. And so we got him a PPP2 loan. And then, same meeting, we called the IRS because they don't put it on your transcript, and we found out that he got currently not collectible. He got $20,000, just a small sole proprietor, just, you know, one person, and I think he's got some sons and some of his friends' sons, his son's friends working for him. So he got some money, got the IRS off his back for a year, and the man left my office nearly in tears. And so I thought, I got on Teams because we messaged each other on Teams, and I said, okay, put your tax returns down. I want you to go through every QuickBooks file that you have access to, and we're going to look for people that qualify for this PPP2 second round. You know, you have to have the 25% drop, either calendar quarter compared to the same quarter last year or for the whole year. And we found lots of people that we could get some money for. And so you just got to be creative, and you just got to think, how can I help? And I mean, if that's just to go deliver groceries to somebody who's, you know, housebound because they got COVID and put them on their front porch. I mean, I don't know why she didn't order it for delivery, but, you know, just because you caring about your customer and you showing them that you care is going to go a long way toward customer retention. And they're going to tell other people, and that's going to, because word of mouth is so big. But the other thing we did about getting new customers was we fired Google, we pay Google for clicks. We fired the Google Clicks people because I was getting a whole bunch of tire kickers and really low, you know. And so we get fewer calls, but they're better calls. And I'm not sure why that is, but that's the other thing we did about getting new customers is we don't pay Google Clicks $500 a month anymore.
So that's all I have.
Well, let's help you thank the panel for all of I'm going to turn back over to Julie now to lead us. Thank you, Julie.
All right, once again, can we have a round of applause for this panel?
Thanks for coming.
Very capable experts appreciate it, and I have the honor of working with, I know Lon already mentioned that they're all board members. They serve additional time on top of all they do with their businesses to serve our community chamber. And I have the honor of learning from them and all their expertise they bring. So thank you so much. And also I want to thank Lon. Lon, could you come up just for a second?
Thank you very much. My honor.
Lon did a great job helping to put this together and bringing all the questions and the essence of what we wanted to come out today. So thank you for that. We couldn't have done it without you. All right, so moving on. I don't believe we have anyone here with the City of Murphy. I don't think I missed anyone today. Okay, so if you are a first-time attendee of the chamber, and I do see a couple new faces, new chamber members, or someone just in the community that decided to join us today, could you just stand up and state your business and introduce yourself quickly?
We're all friends here. I'm Christy Meehan. I was in Murphy since 2003, and I'm a business owner. We Right Now Resume Services. I help job seekers through the job search process. I'm also a LinkedIn pro, so I can help businesses or individuals ramp up and redesign their LinkedIn. And like I said, my business has been around for 3 years, and I'm making that jump that you spoke of between scaling and bringing on MBA. And so I'm probably going to reach out to each one of you in the next month just to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. Thank you so much for this topic. It was terrific. I love it. I look forward to that.
I'm really glad you're able to join us today. Thank you. All right, anyone else first time attending the lunch program from Murphy Chamber? I know Jason already introduced himself with Sweetwater, so thanks again. All right, and I also wanted to recognize Bobby Tillman. He's with Special Webs. That's his business, and Bobby is always recording and videoing, so that's what he was doing today. He's recorded this program so that we can also get it out to anyone who isn't able to attend today. So Bobby, thank you so much for everything. Give some chamber updates. If you're not aware, we do hold a weekly networking event on Thursday mornings right next door, Murphy Community Center building from 8 to 9. We'd love to have you if you haven't attended or if you know of anybody who would benefit from the program to meet new people and network. We'd love to have you there. We do offer hybrid options, so if you can't come in person at 8, we also have a link on our website where you can click and join us virtually. And we have a screen just like this so everyone will see you. And you'll see them when they come up to the podium, so we'd love to have you. Our next event coming up will be our State of the City luncheon in September. That's September 21st. It will be held here in this building, and our speaker will be our mayor, Scott Bradley. He will be talking, and Heat Murphy Beautiful is the sponsor for that program. The program's the same time, 11:30 to 1. So that registration will be available soon. We'd love to see you there. And then September 25th, Murphy Maze Days is a very, very large vendor event hosted by the City of Murphy. So if you are interested in booth space, you can contact the city for that, and I can get you the contact if you're interested. In addition, the Chamber will have an area sponsored where we offer booth space to young entrepreneurs. So kid entrepreneurs that have a business or an idea, and we have that sponsored space where they can have a booth and be showcased. So it's a great event. That's going to be September 25th. So a great event to attend if you haven't already. And then last but not least, we do have a ribbon cutting that I'd love for you to stay for. Don Silger with Club Z is here. We'll do the ribbon cutting right here. And then we do have one scheduled for September with Ninja Nation. Date to be determined. So, all right. And then would you like to come up and give a couple updates for scholarship?
Yep, thanks. I didn't know if that was something you
Yeah, I
did. or
did.
not. Okay. I don't know if I need, can you all hear me okay? All right, so I'm putting on my Scholarship Foundation hat. Talking about Maze Days. Maze Days is the biggest fundraiser that we have for the Scholarship Foundation. And if you're not familiar with what we do, it's called pumpkin chunking. We have a huge slingshot that you shoot pumpkins about this big. You pull it back, you launch it out in the pond. If you hit one of the floats out there, you get a prize. So we're looking for sponsors for that. The cost is $250 to sponsor one of the inner tubes. You get a big yard sign, kind of like the Murphy Chamber event sign that's at the entrance. $100 of that goes to buying prizes. We buy $10 prizes for every $250 donation we get, and $150 goes to the scholarships. So if you're interested, please let me know. We usually get about 2/3 of our fundraising from that. So, fingers crossed, we can get $6,000 this year with the other things that we've been doing. We might even be able to raise our scholarships from $1,500 each to $2,000 each. That's been our goal to reach that. Because we didn't have it last year, luckily we had in reserves enough to cover scholarships for last year. But one of the other things that we're doing is for $1,500, you can name a scholarship. Now, from a tax standpoint, if you do it as a business, if you donate $1,500, really, you're only donating 60% of that. Because think about your income taxes, your self-employment taxes, you're probably paying 40%. So if you donate $1,000, you're really only donating $600 and you're taking $400 from Uncle Sam. So just an idea, this is, you can write this off, either personally or the preferred way would be through your business. So we appreciate all your support, and hopefully we'll see y'all out there, if not as supporters, to chunk a pumpkin. It's a lot of fun. Thanks.
Steve, would you say? All right, we're gonna draw for the raffle. We've got some prizes here. We draw.
How many?
I think we can do 5.
5?
5 winners today.
Got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So who's the first winner? Yeah.
Jackie.
What? Which Jackie? There's 2 Jackies.
Oh.
Was it which one?
Jackie McGinnis.
Oh, it's Jackie McGinnis. Okay, sorry. All right, you have an Amazon gift card and a little chip from Bubsy.
Thank you.
Then who's next?
Christy Neiman.
Chrissy, all right. All right, who's next?
Allison Wilson.
Also, Meyer Blockers on the marketing. All right, thank you.
Mike Hendricks.
Oh, here's a little planner to use.
Oh, I should have brought a bunch more of those.
I keep those. Okay, and then we have a koozie and a nothing but cake. Murphy Chamber koozie.
Linda, would you be interested in that?
Okay, very good. You probably made those. Okay, so that's.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you everyone.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. We appreciate it.
I did my very best one ever when I was that when she decided to even go homeschool. Yeah, she came out of insurance. No one ever called her insurance company. I see that my payment was correct. Thank you so much. Great job.
Enjoyed your presentation.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
So I need a VA, but here's where I'm struggling, and I can't do all the because I know that you need to spend more to begin. I know that, and I recognize that. But as I'm scaling, so when I get the VA to make
Oh, thanks.
resume writer, so I it's like I have to get a VA.
Mine's staying out of the way.
Writing in which I'm also getting somebody for the systems piece. So like to make sure that all my workflows are automations. And I've got a platform that I'm using and I need to get an expert in platforms. It's like HubSpot, but it's designed for someone and it's fantastic. Honeybook, like everybody, like this thing. The name is like,
The name kept me away from those emails for the longest time. I thought it was employee.
So.
Can't see me.
Well, that's right.
On the count of three, everybody say money.
Wait,
One,
on
two,
three.
three.
Click on 3. 1, 2, 3.
One more. 1, 2. Beautiful.
Missing part.
I didn't know who started.
Yes, take care. Thanks for going. You got it? Thank you. Next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you for staying, everyone. 50% off my next month.
I love it. It's great. That's how I get people
Mark, good to see you. Seth, good to see you. Good to see you. Like with your battery.
I'm gonna check it out. Take care, boys. See you back there.
Take care.
I just did a short